Welcome back. Shazia abhi Zohar Zubair se baatcheet kar rahe the and talking about relationships.
It's very interesting because obviously आपको नहीं पता होता कि what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, every relationship has their own secrets. And
But don't you find that a lot of people, especially हमारे culture में, women tend to stay क्योंकि उनको नहीं पता होता कि next step क्या है, कहाँ जाना है, क्या करना है, custody बच्चों का, you know, it's scary.
There are a lot of things that unless you're in that situation, you don't think about.
No. And we have with us today a very reputable lawyer who's a family lawyer, a human rights activist, with us, Maniza Sheikh.
Welcome, Maniza.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Maniza, tell us, your main area is family law.
My main area is family law. I also, as you mentioned, practice in the area of human rights.
Right.
I do some criminal work, a lot of work within our community actually, a lot of work around domestic violence, a lot of workshops at the local mosques, pretty much anywhere where anybody lets me set up shop to kind of fully apprise women of what their rights are.
But do you find that because you're Pakistani, you're female, you speak Urdu, all that, that you would get a lot of our community coming to you?
It depends. I do find when I speak I should say I found in the past when I've spoken publicly at events and I'll invite people, women particularly, to come and ask me questions. At that time when they're with their husband, they're with their children, they might be with extended family.
You don't want to talk
They don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there sort of twiddling my thumbs, and lo and behold, like within a couple days, I've got like 4 or 5 people calling me, asking me questions, and they'll say, oh, hum aapse mile the us workshop mein, aur us waqt main baat nahi kar sakti thi, mere husband mere saath the, and then that's where, you know, that's my first opportunity to sort of connect with these women.
So Maniza, tell us about, you know, all the
What is the first step?
Yeah, what is the first step?
So, ab divorce ki baat karni hai specifically? Yes. Okay, so generally speaking, I think it's really important for all women, and I find particularly jo hamari community mein ladies, and they don't know a lot about their rights.
Right.
So it's very, very common. And for me to have a client who will call me and say, "Acha, my husband, you know, does these terrible things to me. Whether the terrible things be he's being physically violent towards me, he's an alcoholic, he's a drug abuser, he's neglectful. There's a multitude of reasons why marriage.
And there might not be anything like that.
It could just be, I don't love him anymore. I fell out of love.
It's just not working out between us.
I'm just trying to make it a little dramatic. But, you're right. So it could be just something as simple as, you know, we're not on the same page anymore. And then they'll say to me, "Acha, my husband keh rahe hain, agar main ghar chhod ke chali jaungi, mujhe kuch bhi nahi milega. मुझे बच्चे नहीं मिलेंगे, मुझे घर नहीं मिलेगा." Is that true?
Yeah.
And at that point, I generally don't do the phone consults, and I'll invite them to come into my office and I'll explain to them. I'll be like, "That's not the way it works. These are threats."
Right.
And at that point, I take it upon myself to just kind of give them a basic rundown of what their entitlements are. So with regards to the kids, nahi aapke husband aapke bacche nahi rakh sakte, you know, depending on how old they are.
Right.
Generally speaking, when looking at family law, in Ontario, the courts are extremely favorable towards women.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, really and truly it's about who's the primary caregiver of the children, the age of the children, but generally
what's in the best interest of the kids.
But generally speaking, if you are the primary caregiver and you've been an active, you know, you've played an active role in the child's life, you've taken care of them, you've looked after them, generally speaking, mothers will get sole custody of the children, or you know, there's a situation where there's joint custody. But, you know, the circumstances have to be really egregious for the courts to take children away from their mother.
But Maniza, first करें कि मैं आपके पास आती हूँ, मैं कहती हूँ मुझे divorce चाहिए. मुझे obviously फौरन तो divorce मिलने से रही. Obviously there must be some separation agreement या कुछ करना पड़ता है. I think आप पहले बता रही थी. But what scares me is अगर मैं आपके पास आती हूँ और मैं separation agreement मांगती हूँ, फिर मैं क्या करती हूँ, घर जाती हूँ?
Yeah, because women don't feel, I won't feel safe.
आपको डर नहीं लगता कि आप घर जा रहे हैं, separation agreement है?
That's a loaded question. So first and foremost, अगर मेरे पास कोई आ रहा है और मुझसे कहते हैं कि देखो मुझे अपने husband से बहुत डर लग रहा है, I don't want to go home, तो उस couple के लिए separation agreement is not even a good option. Separation agreement उन couples के लिए होता है who are they're ending their marriage on somewhat good terms. Marriage isn't working out anymore, but you know what, we can still sit down, हम घर के बारे में बात कर सकते हैं, finances के बारे में, बच्चों के बारे में, custody के बारे में, let's put it all down in a domestic agreement, you know, forget spending, you know, thousands of dollars in court. That's what separation
उन
agreement
couples के लिए जो अभी बात कर सकते हैं एक दूसरे से.
लेकिन अगर कोई मेरे ऑफिस आ रहा है and जैसे आपने अभी describe किया, like very, you know, scared and the marriage has fallen apart, sounds like there might be some violence in the relationship, I wouldn't recommend a separation agreement. You know, in those circumstances, you know, I would say आपके पास कोई है, extended family, friends जिसके आप रह सकते हैं in the meantime, and then you launch a court application.
Stay safe, basically.
But how long is the wait? Is it 1 साल 2 साल जब तक आपको divorce मिलती है, like कितना time
So
होता है?
first and foremost, it's not just, it might just be a simple divorce, but generally speaking, जिन couples की शादी को काफी साल हो गए, there's all sorts of issues in custody, access, child support, spousal support, equalization. So we apply for the divorce, and you're right, divorce 1 साल के separation के बाद ही मिल सकता है, right?
So roughly it's a year.
Roughly it's a year, but you could be stuck in litigation, litigating all the other issues for longer than a year.
Right.
So let's just say you launch a court application. Okay, I'll give you a very quick example. So you have a husband and wife, उनके 3 बच्चे हैं, उनका घर है, pretty standard, right? So the wife comes to me, I want to file for a divorce against my husband, you know, he's been physically violent towards me, I don't feel safe staying there. So सबसे पहले मैं उनको advise करूँगी, आप बच्चों को लेके कहीं चले जाएं, right? Whether that be family's house, friend's house. Unfortunately, sometimes it can be a shelter as well, where there's no support. And then we would launch a court application. We launched the court application. My next question would be, आपके husband, is he physically violent towards the children? Wife says yes, she says no, so we determine access. So she's now in a safe place, and the children are seeing the father on some sort of access schedule that we either negotiate, या हम court के through हमें जाना पड़ता है, right? And then, you know, we start litigating all the other issues, and you know, if the other side is reasonable and we're on the same page, we can settle all those issues within a year. Like litigation in general, whether it be family, civil, criminal, these things take a very long time.
But okay. On a separate note, though, what do you find, Ajkal, is the reasons for these divorces? It's such a high, at least in our culture.
You're right, because I was talking to somebody and they were telling me that they went to masjid to listen to the Maulana, and Maulana said he doesn't see so many young people anymore because it's the relationships are not working. They don't see them in the masjid. They don't see. So there is some issue.
What is the issue? Like, I mean,
well, I definitely am not the authority on why that's happening from the religious context.
No, but from what you see.
From what I see, I mean, to be quite honest, you know, people are just putting up with a lot less. You know, you look at people in our parents' generation, and you know, love and being connected to one another as a partner. That's not really an issue. It's really about, is your husband a good provider? बच्चों को अच्छी तरह देखते हैं, all these sort of issues, and that's what keeps a marriage together. Our generation is different.
Right.
You know, there could be a roof over their head, and there could be food on the table, and you know, all the bills are being paid, and the children are being taken care of. But if there's no connection,
if you don't feel connected to the other person, then
or बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं. There's lots of situations that I have that it's not just these, you know, these very dramatic marriages that are falling apart. Sometimes it's really just, you know,
you fell out of love. You're just tired.
We don't have anything to say to each other anymore.
Yeah,
he's a great father.
तो ये बात है ना, आजकल फिर there's no tolerance. There's no communication. There's no tolerance.
Yes, you're right. There's no tolerance, but I think also हम बहुत aware हैं कि
That's what it is.
क्या हो रहा है. पहले ये था कि शादी हो जाती है, मोहब्बत बाद में होती है.
Right.
अब कहते हैं मोहब्बत पहले होती है, शादी बाद में. Right?
That's true.
And also when looking at children, sorry to interrupt you, but also when looking at the kids, I find, you know, we're living in a Western society, or, you know, I look at my daughter, the Montessori that my daughter goes to, so many of the kids come from, I don't even feel comfortable using the term broken home anymore, because it's really not appropriate, because we're living in Canada, there's all different sorts of homes. And
there's single parent homes.
Single parents, parents who are separated, one day you have the dad dropping, one day you have the mom dropping. So I mean, I think people are also realizing, you know, अगर हम दोनों के बीच में अब कुछ भी नहीं है, बच्चे are not necessarily going to suffer. This isn't Pakistan, this isn't some other country where everyone's going to be like, oh, the kids. You know, this is a society, this is a country that we're living in where, I'm not saying it's ideal for the children to be without mom and dad in one home, but it's just...
But sometimes it's better.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's better for them.
And you want to be happy.
And I've suggested that sometimes, and by no means am I a psychologist or, you know, anybody who has like, I guess the authorization to say these things, but sometimes when I do feel very connected with a client, I will say,
and
like,
this is common sense. I mean, if I'm happy, my kids are going to see that, and they're going to feed from, you know, that.
But Maniza, I'm just wondering, आपने family law चुना for as your main thing to do, right? Isn't it hard? Like how do you do it?
Yeah.
It must be very, you
we
know,
were just talking about that.
Out of all the areas of law. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting you should say that. In the beginning, it was really hard because I couldn't help it. You know, I'd go home, or husband ko batati thi, without using client names, of course. Ki ye hua, iske saath ye hua, can you believe this happened? But after a while, in the beginning, I'd have someone come to me and say, oh, I haven't seen my children in so long because my wife is withholding access, and I have, the husband sitting in my office crying, and I'm feeling tearful, and here I am,
Do you cry with your clients?
Not anymore.
I
wish I did. You know what? I think I've become a little desensitized, and by no means does that mean that.
No, I've heard that from other family lawyers as well. After a while,
it's all the same issues. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I feel bad, right? But I mean, it's different now. I've seen it all before. There's not anything that really surprises me. Whereas in the beginning, it'd be like, oh, aapke husband, he's physically violent towards you, or aapki wife, she's not letting you see the kids because you didn't pay child support. Like, these issues were new. They're not new anymore.
I just want to say, do you do workshops for women to educate them?
I do. I have contacted some of the local mosques in the area.
Right.
Some of them are very resistant to me coming in and doing these workshops because no matter what I say, unko sirf ye sunai deta hai ki, acha you're going to educate people on divorce. Yeah, all they hear is divorce.
But divorce in Islam is jaiz. I mean, it's your haq.
It is, but
it's
haq hai.
Wo theek hai, and I guess I understand what you're saying.
Culturally, it's not acceptable.
Well, it's becoming acceptable, I would argue. But I would say religiously more, it's still of a challenge, regardless of the fact that I'll mention, look, I want to come in and do this free workshop to educate women, just unke basic rights I want to teach them about. And I feel like, certain individuals that I've spoken with at certain mosques, all they hear is me saying, so you want to come in and break up families?
So in other words,
they take it the wrong way.
Then keep it quiet, it'll go away.
So if there's a miserable family that's together, let them be miserable and stay together as long as they stay together.
No, but I think you're doing an excellent job. You're, educating women about whatever they need to do.
No, I agree with you on that 100%. And I think more education is needed because I think there's a lot of families out there jinko nahi pata ke kya kar sakte hain, and they're stuck in these marriages.
Yeah. And they don't know where to start. So having a name, just your name, is a lot for them. Just to pick up the phone and say, I need help, please. And
I don't charge for consults. I mean, if it's just, some basic questions, and I think that's something that goes a long way with my clients. I always say I don't charge for chit-chat. If you're going to come in and you want full 2 hours legal advice, that's a different story.
So we're not charged today for this chit-chat.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Muniza, for this chit-chat.
No, but you're right, though. As long as aap charge nahi kar rahe ho, they feel safe that they can come. आके बात कर सकते हैं,
they can have people with no resources, right?
Yes, वही बात है because
there's a lot of those.
For sure.
The husbands have the money, they don't have the money.
You're right.
Lawyers cost money. At least अगर आपसे आके free में पहले बात कर लें, phone पे बात कर लें, it'll make them feel a lot better.
I think तसल्ली हो जाती है.
Definitely.
And we all look for that when you're in a situation where you want to talk to somebody and people like you. It's amazing.
And I'm fortunate. I've had situations where somebody will call me. और फिर मुझे बोलते हैं अच्छा मैं आपको फ़ोन करूँगी 1-2 दिन में फ़ोन करूँगी and I don't hear from them and I worry about them. I'm like, oh, that woman told me something and it sounded so terrible. And then 4 or 5 months later, 6 months later, she will contact me and say, you know what, I thought about everything that you said, and at some point we connect. Not everybody, some people really never call back, and then you do wonder, are they still living in a situation with a husband who's violent or who's an alcoholic?
It stays with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Muniza. Thank you for coming, talking to us, and not charging us.
Thank you so much, Muniza, for being here.
Thank you.
और अगर हमारे viewers को कोई भी questions, concerns हो, please आप Muniza को call करें. Muniza, आपका contact number क्या है?
My office number is 905-597-0230. And if you need more information on what type of work I do, the specific areas of law I practice, everything's on my website, including email, contact information. And that's www.sheikhlawoffice.com. And that's Sheikh spelt with an E. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Muniza, for being here. And we will be right back after this short break. So
don't go anywhere.